about this doctor. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it's surprising, really. I think, there's a few things that are sort of like shockers, really, in this case. And one, it's just incredible that anyone could just walk into someone's house like that and cold-bloodedly shoot this couple, even though their children were in the house. I mean, that's a pretty savage thing to do, isn't it? Who would even think it? You can't even get your head around that. And of course, it's in cold blood, complete cold blood, because they did, it's not that it was an argument and it got out of hand or whatever. This person planned it. Do you know how many, from where he lived, he drove 4.5 hours to the Tepe's home? 4.5 hours. So yeah, it wasn't just, oh, he's got in a strop, and he's decided, they just live around the corner, and he's just decided to go round there and shoot them in a moment of madness. This is not a moment of madness. This is a 4.5 hour drive where he could have come to his senses at any moment. And although, yeah, we're thinking, oh, is it some sort of psychotic break? Psychotic breaks really don't normally last all that time. If you just had a moment where you're going to do something crazy, 4.5 hours later when you're still driving, or 3 hours later when you're still on your way there, plenty of time to change your mind, to calm down, to look at things differently. I think it's not, personally, I don't think it was a psychotic break. I think this man is cruel. I think he's like just in his own lane with all that hate. It's like spite, isn't it? Just anger that they were so happy and he wasn't. Some people always need somebody else to blame for their own unhappiness. You know, we all go through periods of unhappiness, but it's no point in blaming anyone else. You're the only person, unless that person is actually, doing something to you, like domestic control, coercive control, or whatever. He was separate. They weren't controlling him or doing anything bad to him. He was, he is in control of his own happiness. It's not anybody else's fault that he's not happy. And even if somebody leaves you, even if they leave you in a horrible way, still not really, you can't hold that, you just have to move on, don't you? But some people can't. Some people are just consumed by spite, and it's all everybody else's fault and not theirs. That's what I think of this man. And him being a surgeon, you presume he's reasonably intelligent. I don't know. You must have to be intelligent to get a medical degree. Surely you must. I know that doesn't necessarily mean common sense. But it's like I just think he's consumed with spite. I think he's a selfish, narcissistic twat, to be honest. That's my opinion. I don't feel any sympathy. And when I see him, I don't feel any different. We're going to have a look at him in the court in a minute. And I'll tell you that defender that had to stand next to him, she looked uncomfortable. He was staring at her. He's a very tall, imposing guy, big, broad guy. And he was stood too close to her. He was definitely in her space, and she felt uncomfortable and moved away. Why was he stood so close to her? Do you know, people like that, they're low, what you might call low in self-monitoring. I hate people standing in my space, or that I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's like if it's your partner, you want them in your space, but when somebody leans over too much or touches you when you haven't invited them to touch you, or or that, I hate those kind of things. It really does make me feel uncomfortable. And he's one of those people. He's just oblivious to other people, I think. And I think to be a surgeon, in a way, you have to be a bit like that, because you've got to be quite distant, haven't you? You can't get emotionally involved in operations and stuff like that, because, well, you just can't, can you? Because you've got to look on it as just a case. So I do think there's a certain I think surgeons are ice cold, and luckily for that, they have to be. You won't, God, you won't want me operating on you, that's for sure. I'd be going, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Oh, did that hurt? Did that hurt? You don't want that, do you? You just want someone who's going to do the job professionally. So I do think surgeons are a little bit, just by, they have to be, a little bit cold and aloof. So that's the first thing. He travelled 4.5 hours there and four and a half hours back to murder these people. So he had plenty of time to change his mind. It wasn't a crime in the heat of the moment. It was planned. Now, something that I just want to show you is, so now they seem to know the exact time. They released a thing with the exact time that Monica and Spencer were apparently murdered. How do they know? How do they know the exact time? Let's have a look at this. Look. So this is, don't know what this is. It's a report anyway about it. And it's got time of death or time of offence time, 3:52 a.m. How do they know? So that must be the time. There's, it's not even, between 2 and 3 or between 3 and 4. 3:52 a.m. A very precise time. So there's got to be some data somewhere. Either the door cam, maybe Spencer and Monique had a door alarm sort of thing at the front door or the back door. Maybe it triggered a camera that took a photo. I mean, they may have a photo of somebody, of the intruder going in. Or maybe that if he did have the keypad, because we still don't know how he actually accessed the property, did he have the keypad number? In which case, I would imagine it would, the app for the keypad, won't it show up the time that somebody went in? So it's either going to be the door cam or it's going to be when he actually accessed the property, or maybe somebody heard something. I thought that none of the neighbours had heard gunshots, but of course, we don't have the full details yet. Now, the other thing that's interesting that they're saying now is that Monique was shot multiple times, where originally they said that Spencer was shot multiple times. So, which is true, or maybe both are true? Initially, we were told that Monique was shot once in the chest. That was what's always been right from day one with this case. Now they're saying multiple gunshot wounds for Monique. So it says it was Jennifer Coffindaffer says it was reported early on that only 3 shell casings were found at the scene of the murders. Now, of course, that does not mean, and she makes a good point there, does not necessarily mean only 3 shots were fired. It may be that he fired 10 shots, but there were 3 shell casings he couldn't find when he was maybe he tried to pick up the shell casings to take with him, because it does seem strange that he would leave the shell casings there, because they're just an automatic link, to your weapon, aren't they? So were there only 3 shell casings that he could find? They could have, 3 cases he couldn't find. There could have been 10 shell casings. He's picked up 7, but he couldn't find the other 3 because he was rushing off. Were they under the bed? Where had they ended up? Maybe he just couldn't find them. And he felt like the children were starting to cry or whatever. And, he just wanted to get out of there. So he just picked up the shell casings he could. So we don't know really exactly how many in total gunshots there were. All we've been told so far is multiple first of all, for Spencer, they said multiple, which multiple is just more than one. It could be anything from 2 to 20, really, couldn't it? And now they're saying that Monique was shot multiple times as well, which does make sense, really, when you think about it, because this man, if he was so angry, he's likely to shoot more than once, isn't he? Because he want to be sure that they were dead. That's just the brutal reality of it. And then he'd want to get out of there as quick as possible, as soon as he heard the children waking up and crying or whatever, wouldn't he? And the dog maybe was barking, though nobody seemed to hear the dog barking or anything. He didn't shoot the dog, he didn't shoot the children. Yeah. So that's something I just wanted to show you. Now, this other news that's coming out is that he has been accused of malpractice. So this makes me wonder, is this why? Because we like to look for reasons, don't we? So apparently the doctor of People magazine, but not only the People magazine, because it's been reported from different sources, the doctor accused of accusing his ex-wife and husband was sued for malpractice 3 months before the death, and they've disappeared. But I don't see that he can just have disappeared, because he was, everybody knew where he lived. He was So Michael McKees named in an amended complaint filed on September the 29th, 2025 by a man who allegedly required emergency surgery after an 8-inch catheter broke off in his leg. So, it's like in America, especially, it's a suing culture, isn't it? Was this guy about to sue him? Now, there's been a lot of talk, people saying, oh, yeah, he must have had money because he was a surgeon. God, he's got this really wicked face. I'm sorry, I think he's got a wicked face. I know they say you shouldn't go by appearances, but look at him. God, if you wouldn't want to meet him up a dark alley, would you? If I was out walking my dog and he came walking towards me, I'd absolutely shit myself, because I think he just looks scary, doesn't he? Anyway, so yeah, you know what it's like in America for suing culture. Was he just about to be sued for this catheter breaking off in someone's leg? Maybe he was already going down the hill of bad mental health or whatever, getting, he had this court case, whatever it was, coming up with Monique. Who knows? Christmas, as you know, I think Christmas is a big factor in this. Big dates, big events cause people to start thinking about their lives and how miserable they are or how happy they are. Christmas can be the best time and it can be the worst time, depending on what situation you're in at the time in your life. Yeah, something's triggered him, that's for sure, to wait all this time. So did he feel, that he was going to get sued, so now's the time to do it? Avoid being sued. So yeah, Michael McKee is accused of medical malpractice in an amended complaint filed by a man in Las Vegas on September 29th, 2025. But he could not be served papers because he allegedly just disappeared. Well, I don't think he just disappeared, because he was there in his flat when the police went for him. And 3 months after that complaint was filed, his ex-wife Monique and her husband Spencer were killed inside their Columbus, Ohio home as the 2 children slept. McKee, 39, is now in an Illinois jail waiting extradition to Ohio after being accused of murdering the couple more than 8 years after he and Monique divorced. And 3 months before the deaths of Monique and Spencer, The man accused of murdering the couple was sued for medical malpractice. He allegedly oversaw a botched surgery at Las Vegas Surgical Associates, during which an 8.6-inch catheter shard broke off in a patient's leg, according to a copy of an amended complaint filed in Clark County Court and obtained by the People magazine. That amended complaint was filed on September 29, 25, and the patient's lawyer spent over a month trying to track McKee down with no luck. Well, that's really surprised me because, as I say, the police found him just like that. He had this condo where he was living, and he was living there. So don't know. So is that the straw that broke the camel's back? Has he been festering all this time, and then maybe he's seen something, he's thinking, oh, Spencer and Mo, they're so happy, and it's all their fault that I'm unhappy, because it would all be everybody else's fault. And the other thing I wanted to say is that, there's been a lot of talk about, oh, well, he's a surgeon, he's got no children that we know of or any commitments apart from his nice condo. He should be reasonably well off. But you know what? He might not be, because, people live up to their means. He could be a drug addict for all we know. He could be taking cocaine every day. He could be, a gambler. He could be an alcoholic. He could be any of those things. People live up to their means, don't they? It doesn't matter if you're earning 50 grand a year or 15 grand a year. People tend to spend all their money, don't they, or whatever. He had quite a few cars, do you remember, when the divorce settlement came? Maybe just like the high lad, doesn't mean to say he had lots of money left over. But he didn't have children, that's for sure. So, that you're always a lot better off if you haven't got children, that's for sure, because children cost a lot of money. That's just the way it is. But, we still don't really know. He's probably a lot to come out about his life. Did he not have a partner? It's like, he married Mo. And I was thinking about that, thinking how many people, men and women, quite often get married young, don't they? I got married very young. I didn't feel young at the time. I thought I'd done well to get to 20, 21 before I got married. Because both my sisters had to get married in their teens because they were pregnant. So, I thought I'd done really well to get to early 20s and not be pregnant, not have to get married. But of course, people would tell you, like namely your parents say to you, you're a bit young, but, and you think, oh, for God's sake, I'm not young, I'm 21, for God's sake. So, of course, as you get older, you realise that actually you were too young, even at 21, really, to get married. In fact, I think I'm still too young to get married at in my 60s. Because it's a big decision, isn't it? Now, it works out for some people, don't get me wrong. Some people get married very young, even teenagers, and stay together all their lives. It does work out for some people. But in general, it doesn't, does it? In this day and age, there's not many people that are married for all those years like they used to be. That's just the way it is. I think, so often people do make mistakes with their first marriage, don't they? And you hope that by the time they get to their second marriage, they've made a wiser choice. But some people, even that doesn't work out. Some people, it's not unusual for people to be married, 3 times, even 4 times. Marriage is difficult, isn't it? It's like, people get married because in the throes of the early, there's nothing nicer than that early part of a relationship. It is lovely, when you just, finding out about each other and you're in love, and, even when the other person does irritating things, you love it. You love everything they do, everything about them. You just want to be with them all the time. You never stop talking. It's lovely that. I don't think there's anything nicer than that. I am a romantic in that sense. I do believe in romance, and I love that feeling of being in love. But of course, it doesn't last, does it? I think that's where the challenge comes for most people, and definitely for me, is when it settles down into a relationship, and all those things you loved about that person start to irritate you. And what I found in relationships is quite often people fall for you, I mean me, if you like, because they like the fact, well, I used to be, you know, sociable and outgoing, and that people fall for you because they like that about you, but then they don't want you to be like that anymore, because they only want you to be like that with them. They don't want you to be like that with other people. That's a problem, I think. And then jealousy comes in, and from both sides. I can be a very jealous person. It just all becomes stressful, doesn't it? But so I wonder if that's what happened with Monique. Did she, when she married him, see another side of him? All that love bombing, maybe that's it. That often happens in the early stages of a relationship, isn't it? And you think, oh, they really care about me. They want to know where I am all the time. Then it becomes, you think, why do they want to know where I am all the time? You can't even visit your family, or you can't even go out with your friends to the gym, or that's sort of what happened to me in that controlling relationship I had. It was like, oh, I want to come. I want to come everywhere with you. So where does it cross the line from being sort of just caring about what you're doing and making sure you get home safely, and that to total control, and you can't go anywhere without me? And it doesn't happen overnight, does it? It happens gradually. So, before you know it, you're in this big hole that you can't get out of. But see, Mo was only married for 7 months, so this was a very short marriage. So she found out quite quickly that she didn't want to be with this person. So something must have happened. Something must have happened. So at one point, the process server tasked with delivering the complaint to McKee spoke with one of his co-workers about his whereabouts. According to a declaration of due diligence filed in the case, and he was told he just disappeared. He didn't disappear. He was in his flat, wasn't he? But anyway, his location is no longer a secret. On January the 10th, he was booked into the Winnebago County Jail. I hope we get the body cam of the arrest at some point. Where did he get arrested? He's expected to be charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder with premeditation in the deaths of his ex-wife Monique and her dentist husband Spencer. So just explaining so these charges have been ramped up. So he was originally charged with murder. It's now been changed to aggravated murder, and that is much more serious. This is the way it works in this state. So it's premeditation, and aggravating factors are like that because there were 2 people killed at the same time. So he could possibly face the death penalty because it's the highest it's different from regular murder, if you like. I suppose that could be just in a fit of rage, or a crime of passion type murder. His charges now are much more serious than that. Premeditation, more than one person, etc., etc. So he's going to get the book thrown at him. When he came into the courtroom there, he's very stony faced. But I didn't like the way he was looking at the defence lawyer. I don't know. If I was there, I wouldn't have wanted to be stood next to him. That's for sure. So apparently the arrest warrant said they were able to identify a suspect through neighbourhood video surveillance. They then tracked that person to a vehicle which arrived just prior to the homicides and left shortly after the homicides. And then they tracked him to Rockford, a city in Illinois located 450 miles away. So this is how far he travelled to murder these people. 450 miles to kill someone. That's not a crime of passion, is it? So apparently he moved to Chicago sometime after May 2024, and that's when the malpractice lawsuit was first filed against his employer. And Illinois state medical records show that he had been licensed to practice in the state starting in October 2024, and just by this past July he purchased a penthouse apartment in Chicago for $400,000. And then in September he was named. So this is something that could contribute towards it. Maybe he was just, peed off anyway, and for some reason he probably thought it's all Monique's fault because she left him, and since she left him, his life went downhill. I don't know. So the complaint alleges that the failure of Michael David McKee, MD, to properly train or supervise his co-worker caused the catheter or device to shear or fracture, leaving an 8.6 portion of the device in the plaintiff's body. And it goes on to claim that the plaintiff suffered numerous adverse sequelae because McKee allegedly breached the standard of care, including lower extremity bleeding, edema, pain, discoloration, disfigurement, and other injuries. And on October the 9th, McKee's co-worker told the process server that the vascular surgeon had just disappeared. And on November the 10th, the plaintiff's lawyer filed a motion asking the judge that he be able to serve McKee via publication. And the judge delayed hearing arguments on that motion, which would allow the plaintiff to identify McKee as being a defendant in the complaint in a legal journal in lieu of physically serving in the legal document multiple times before finally approving the motion on January the 6th. So that case is set to go to trial in July 2027, and McKee is one of the defendants. I wonder what will happen now. So the plaintiff is seeking damages totaling over $50,000, and because neither Nevada or Illinois require doctors to be insured, it's unclear if McKee would be covered if convicted or be forced to pay out of pocket. He will next appear in Franklin County Court, though, as early as this week, where he's expected to be arraigned on 2 counts of murder. So, is that a contributing factor, do you think? Let me know, of course. Let me know what you do you think that's got anything to do with him finally snapping? Do you think he thought, oh, sod this? What do you think? Or do you think it doesn't really matter that? Or, what has triggered this man? Anyway, we're going to look now at what the neighbours had to say, or one neighbour that got interviewed on Banfield. So give credit to Banfield. We've watched her a few times. So we're just going to watch the bit where the neighbour talks. Very interesting to hear the neighbour speak. I've just got to turn something down. There you go. And yeah, the usual thing. Oh yeah, lovely guy, nice guy. Never would have thought he would have done anything like this. Oh.
Like they can't believe they are hearing of this kind of an arrest of one of their neighbors. And earlier on my News Nation show, I talked to one of those neighbors. Geraldine Koleric lives in Dr. McKee's building 2 floors down. And she spoke to him many times before he ended up being arrested for a double murder. Here's my conversation with her. Geraldine, thank you so much for being on the program. I just wanted to get your first reaction to hearing that this neighbor of yours, who you'd spoken with and thought was delightful, has been arrested on 2 aggravated murders.
Yeah, it's really was a shock to the building and everything, because I met him really once. We really talked at the poolside. And that was during the summer, shortly after he moved in. And we talked at the pool, and he was very friendly. We were all barbecuing at that time. And he did not seem like somebody that would be doing something like this. But like Ashley, like you point out, you don't know what is in a person's mind,
No.
what they're obsessing about, and what they're going through in their mind, and what causes them to react. I saw him.
Definitely true, isn't it? You just don't know. People seem, I mean, as I say, looking at him there, he looks like a psycho, doesn't he? But, it's easy to say now, I suppose, but you literally don't know. You pass your neighbours, you say, there's a couple of my neighbours, I would never be surprised if I saw them arrested for murder. You just, but then it's normally seems to be the ones that people didn't expect, like, the neighbour who is a bit aggressive or whatever. It doesn't seem to happen. It's always the one where they say, oh no, we would never have thought that.
Last week, to going by, and we would just say, hi, how are you? Hi, and that's it. We never really spoke after that. He was kind of a quiet person to himself. But it is shocking that a resident of this building was charged with such a terrible crime. And residents
I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, that's it. So he's not just been charged. It'd be bad enough if you found out he was a drug runner or, I don't know, done something. But this is like, you couldn't do much worse, could you, than sort of travel 450 miles and shoot your ex-wife and her partner in front of their children? I mean, this is a huge crime. So, you just don't know what's going on in people's heads, in people's homes. You don't know, as we've talked about, everyone's got their public life, their private life, and their secret life. And his secret life was all this hate he was harboring.
Can I ask you, how did you all even find out? Like, how did the news sort of spread through the building?
Well, I found out because there was Channel 7 crew that was outside there of our building trying to talk to residents. And I walked up to them because I used to work at Channel 7 in Chicago. I was assignment editor. And I said, what's happening over here? What's going on? The doorman said you wanted to talk with me. And they told me about what was happening. And when they said Mike McKee, I said, well, I don't know if I know him. Show me a picture. And then they showed me the picture. And I went, oh my gosh, I know him. He's one of my neighbors. He lives two stories above me in the building here. And I said, why? My goodness, it was unbelievable that this man.
See, in America as well, because you're allowed to carry guns. So, like anywhere you live, you don't know what weapons your neighbours have got in their homes, I suppose. They could come out with a machete or a knife, or, in the UK, it's more knife crime, isn't it? Knife crime is rampant in a lot of countries now, isn't it? But I just think it's worth knowing that all your neighbours may have a gun. So, if they just got, annoyed with something you did, they came out, they've got, he's got a gun there, he's used his gun to buy a gun in a supermarket or in a bloody pawn shop or whatever. It's quite scary. So then you'd have to have a gun as well for your own self-protection. And so probably everyone in that bloody condo's got a gun.
And he was just so nice when I talked to him. And then, as I said, we would pass each other. This is a building of a lot of professional people, okay? And people that come in.
Speaking of that, I want to let, sorry to interrupt, Geraldine, sorry to interrupt, but I want to let our viewers know that when you say it's a building of professional people, that includes you. Not only did you work at Channel 7 as an assignment editor, you're also a true crime author. So tell the audience what you did to take a peek 2 floors up where he lived and what you saw.
Well, I went upstairs and I saw a police officer sitting right in front of his door, guarding his place there. And I took a little video. I guess it's the newswoman in me. And I also took a picture of what his apartment looked like from the outside. And I just...
Look, I mean, this did make me smile a little bit, because there's a policewoman there. She's sat on her phone. She's probably having a look at Facebook. Sat in front of the door, like guarding the door of the apartment where he lived. And this lady goes up and starts taking a video of her. I mean, good that she did, because, we want all the details, don't we? I mean, it's a human, curiosity is a human thing. To see, when you see the sort of banality of true crime, if you like, these things are going on all the time. True crime cases, and this is like the nuts and bolts of it. You got just a policewoman sat outside her door, just literally guarding that door, isn't she? She's literally there just to make sure that nobody goes in that door, because people will find out where Michael lived and be going round there. I mean, she lives in the block, so she's got every reason to be there. But there'll be other people, probably internet sleuths, as they call them, or armchair detectives. But some armchair detectives get out their armchairs, don't they, and go and film things. The thing is, you can't stop people going into a public building like that and taking a video. But that policewoman sat there just to make sure no one actually goes into the flat. But it's funny, I wonder if she is on Facebook there. Maybe she's on Bumble.
Was surprised that there's a police officer on duty there 24 hours. And then I came up the next day, and there, Lord and behold, I saw that there were now investigators there. And I went to get my car in the garage, and there was an investigation van saying Crime Lab from Columbus. So that is something else that I videotaped right away. And the investigators going to the van. And when I went upstairs, I saw that they were taking boxes of stuff out of there and putting it in there. They had one box and they were putting stuff in there. You know what? It's a very circumstantial evidence thing. You have the digital stuff and so on, but you don't have the firing gun. You know what I mean? That's something that they're looking for. And I'm sure.
Well, they may have the gun by now. We don't know, because if they've gone into his apartment, taken everything away, for analysis, they may have found the gun there. Or would he have dumped the gun on his way back? He had 4.5 hours driving back from murdering this poor couple. He had 4.5 hours to dump that gun somewhere. So it could be anywhere, couldn't it? Or, he is a bit of a thicko. Let me put my thicko. I'm going to use the thicko. He's a bit of a thicko. Really, because they might be a surgeon, but I think just the way he doesn't care if he gets, or he doesn't care if he goes to prison for the rest of his life, because at least he knows that they're not having a good life. Some people are like that, isn't it? I'm surprised he didn't delete himself, to be honest, but then some people are too cowardly to do that. It's one thing killing other people and then turning the gun on yourself, although it happens a lot, of course. It takes quite a bit of doing that, doesn't it? I think it's probably, it sounds awful, but it's sort of easier to kill other people than it is yourself, because you'd be terrified, really, wouldn't you? Especially if you'd killed other people, so you're going to hell. Let me put the hell emoji up. This guy, this is where he's going. He's one of them thickos going to hell. And I need to use the emojis. He's got the, but maybe he doesn't care. Sometimes they don't care. They don't care what, he might be just like, oh, well, they're not happy anymore, so I don't care what happens to me. I'm not going to let that guy take me to court. I'll be in prison anyway, be looked after for the rest of his life. You know, it's horrible to be in prison, of course, in a way, but, you know, that's it. You never got to worry about another bill again, have you? Never have to worry about your bills, how you're going to get the shopping in for the end of the week. You've got no worries in a way.
That they're also looking for
I will be
any messages
I'll
he
be
had or drawings and things like that.
We're about to do a deep dive with investigators who do this for a living, who are going to run down the list of everything they probably looked for in that apartment and seized, as well as other places as well. But I'd like to just ask you in retrospect, you know, we all look back at things and people when we learn something that's jarring, and then we think, okay, that now in retrospect, it's unusual. Was there anything about Dr. Michael McKee that was the least bit unusual or struck you as unusual in retrospect?
No, nothing struck me as being unusual. He was a business person coming in. We'd pass in the hallway. We'd be in the elevator and I'd say hi and he'd say hi. We were all tired from working and everything like that. But, you know, the building put out a memo to all the residents. And this is a memo and it says, good afternoon, residents. Due to an active police investigation involving a resident, you may see and encounter law enforcement officials in and around the building over the next few days. Now, that is what alarmed a lot of residents to what was happening.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And that was
I'm sorry, Geraldine, I'm sorry that I was just going to say, I'm sorry that you and all of these residents sort of have come, you know, within arm's length of this very tragic story in Columbus. But I'm really appreciative for your, you know, first of all, your spidey senses to go upstairs and take a look, but also thanks for your perspective and your information about your neighbor. I do appreciate this tonight.
I really feel that Ashley cut her off too. I think there's a lot that this woman could have said about, you know, him and the situation in the flat and how everyone's feeling. So, yeah, I did feel like she cut. In fact, even later on in the video, Ashley said, oh, I wasn't meaning to cut her off. So obviously people had said you're cutting her off. But anyway, so whether this lady will come back and do an interview again, I thought it was very, very interesting, her input about what he was like or what he came over as being like, and about the email that circulated to all the residents. And that it must be very disturbing if you live in a block like that, even more so there than if you live on a street, because street, you know, you live on a street, all the houses are separate. But there, you know, you're literally sharing the apartment block with this man. And God, you know, it sort of made me think a little bit about, you know, I don't know why it's just come into my head, but, you know, Anna Knezevich, and she lived in an apartment block, didn't she, in Madrid, and her ex-husband, David, they've been split up for a while, not 7 years like this, but, you know, he just walked in there, somehow he got into her apartment, murdered her, it's thought, and then put her in a suitcase and brought her out. So you think about all the other people, that was all going on. That was all going on in that apartment block. You know, there's quite a lot of other people living in that apartment block. It's a very salubrious apartment block in Madrid. And that guy, I call him David Konobovich because he's another thicko who thought he was clever. Just walked into her home. How do these people just walk into people's homes? Walk in, murdered her, and took her out in a suitcase. You know, her dead body out in a suitcase. Terrible. And of course, he was caught in the end. And there is a playlist about Anna Knezevich on my channel. But he, unfortunately, finally was arrested when he returned to America. And but he then deleted himself in prison. Maybe this guy will do that, eh? You know, and unfortunately, Anna Knezevich, her body has never been found because he took his secrets with him. So not only is a knob for killing her, a twonk for killing her, but he's a double twonk because he's now taking himself away from this earth. And Anna's family still don't know where her remains are because she could be anywhere. He just took her off in a suitcase and then drove back to Serbia They think he might have dumped Anna in Italy somewhere because he had a friend there. But anyway, they're still looking for her, but whether they'll ever find Anna's remains and give her family knows she's dead. But they want to bring her, lay her to rest properly. Now, just before I finish, I'm just about to finish now, but I just wanted to show you. I thought he was very intimidating. He's a very intimidating man, because of his stature, because he's tall, broad. But that stone-faced look, she's pointing to him, telling him where to stand.
And that tummy chain went all the way around his back. Here's my assumption, although I couldn't see it from the camera angle, he was probably in leg irons as well. He seemed to be shuffling along, and that's usually indicative of leg irons. Although, honestly, some people shuffle. And I say that because I still want to know if it was Dr. McKee they're going to allege was the hulking figure in the back alley skulking.
Oh, yeah, they have said that this was him, this person this was him. And you can see that it's him as well, can't you?
Along after the murders, because there's a definite shuffle gait to the person who's walking in the back alley, and you cannot compare it to the courtroom, because if you're wearing, leg irons, you're not walking like you normally would walk. But incidentally, let's just get to the meat and potatoes of this hearing. It was really short, like way shorter than I thought. I thought we might hear.
I just want to show you the way he looks at the defense.
Overall, so while today was not a plea hearing, obviously we heard from that public defender that was appointed to him that he intends to plead not guilty when he does get to Ohio. He recognizes that the easiest, in fact.
So she goes over and stands next to him.
Move forward for everybody, for himself as defendant, for the people in Winnebago County, for the people in Franklin County. Is to waive extradition. So that's what this was all about today. He did not.
Turn that sound down, actually. So as the defense lawyer is talking to the judge, he keeps looking at the defense lawyer. Look, I don't know, he's the way he's looking at her. I would have felt really uncomfortable if I was her. And he stood far too close for my liking. Why is he looking at her, not the judge? Probably can't face the judge. I don't know, but he's sort of looking down. He just feels everything he does is intimidating. So then when she gets him to sign the paper, he has to sign something, that'll be the waiver, I suppose. And she puts the paper down there with the pen. He moves really close to her, and she has to actually move away from him. Just gives off that air of being an absolute, I don't know, he's intimidating. Yeah, so she pushes the paper over and gives him the pen. Look how he stands right up to her. Oh my God, I would go back, get meter away from me, for fuck's sake. So look, yeah, did you see how he stood right near to her? He moved right close to her to sign that paper. And just wanted to show you that, because to me, it says a lot about the type of person he is, the type of imposing, intimidating person. Makes you wonder what happened between him and Monique in that short marriage. Oh, God, I couldn't bear him touching me like that. She's like, I'm staying over here. Anyway. So let me know what you think about all of it. Don't forget to leave your... Oh, Heather. Thank you so much. You know, I've been worrying about you. I was going to email you